Welcome to the show. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, and I'm joining you today from beautiful downtown Plymouth, Massachusetts. That's right, behind enemy lines. What's clear today is that our vaccine is not really a vaccine, and the efficacy of the vaccine is failing. That is quite clear across the globe as we look at Israel and the United Kingdom. They're well ahead of us in this most recent wave. And if we look at that, we see to ourselves, maybe the biggest lie has been our own hubris to control the virus. What I'm specifically talking about is this article from Reuters brought to my attention by Alex Berenson. He doesn't have a Twitter account anymore, so you're going to go follow him on Substack. But it says, hospital strain to test UK's vaccine-based winter COVID plan analysis. The lead is the most startling. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is hoping to get through winter without any more coronavirus lockdowns, but doctors and scientists warn that relying largely on vaccines without other measures could put unsustainable pressures on hospitals. End quote. So that's a peculiar sentence because in the United Kingdom, 81% of the eligible population is vaccinated. That's much, much higher than the United States. Last year at this time, they had just under 1,100 COVID hospitalizations. Today, they have 8,300. And what they're saying by this paragraph here is that the vaccine is not going to be enough, that highly likely they're going to need lockdowns, if they even believe in that anymore, to combat the virus. So that is from the United Kingdom, and that should give anyone pause because we were told first, 2 weeks to bend the curve, flatten the curve. Then if we all just wore masks, and then when the vaccine came available, if we just took the vaccine once, twice, and maybe now a third time, everything will be fine. Now we're finding in church bell. Can you hear it? I don't know. Yeah, when you're downtown, that's what happens. Now we're finding that maybe even the vaccine is not enough. In Ireland, 54% of hospital patients are fully vaccinated. In Massachusetts, which I believe is the second or the third, it's one of the top most vaccinated states in the United States. Vermont, I think, being number one. In Massachusetts, 28% of hospitalizations for COVID are fully vaccinated in Massachusetts. So that's an interesting question, that we're developing. We're talking about the changing of a definition of what vaccination is. You might remember that Alex Berenson actually tweeted out, and the reason why he got deleted from Twitter or suspended or permanently account deleted, whatever you want to call it, was because he indicated that the vaccine was much more like a therapeutic. And that cost him his Twitter account not too long ago. Well, it ends up that, in fact, the CDC is basically saying the same thing that Alex Berenson said. They've had, over the last 5 or 6 years, 3 different types of definitions for the word vaccine. Before 2015, so well before this whole virus thing, it was an injection of a killed or weakened infectious organism in order to prevent disease. Then, 2015 to 2021, the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce immunity of a specific disease. That definition is almost actually stronger than the first one. And then the new one, which just got adopted earlier this month, the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection from a specific disease. This emphasis, by the way, is added by Representative Thomas Massey in his tweet. You can go look it up. So a vaccine is now protection. It's not immunity, and it's not for prevention. It's now for protection. It's almost exactly what Alex Berenson said a couple of weeks ago. In fact, this is a long-standing trend. There are things that you can't say because they go against the trend, the narrative. And then what do you know, 3 or 4 weeks or a month later, 2 months later, they actually become true. There was a time when you could get banned for saying that Biden was going to support a vaccine mandate, and people got banned for that. Then he supported a vaccine mandate. It's almost now laughable if you get deleted or canceled from Twitter, especially for saying something. It's almost guaranteed that it's going to come true 5, 6, 7 weeks later. But Dr. Fauci continues to promote the vaccine.
Sobering news. The encouraging news is that the vaccines really do work.
Vaccines really do work. You should get vaccinated. I think it's a good idea. So I'm not saying that vaccines don't work, but we definitely got to look at the trend line here, because it's not looking too strong, especially if we look at Israel in the United Kingdom. Vaccines work. He is saying vaccines work based upon the new definition, getting back to Representative Massey's tweet, that it's protection. Vaccines work as protection, like they're therapeutic.
The Delta variant, but we have a really unfortunate situation that we have a pretty hardcore group of people that we're trying to.
Okay, so that goes back to President Biden's villainization, or trying to divide our country based upon two groups, those that are vaccinated and those that are unvaccinated. More of that's to come, as you know, the travel ban for unvaccinated on airplanes, trains, buses, all that's coming.
Persuade them or mandate them if they're not persuaded.
Yes, you've got to be persuaded or mandated
to get vaccinated. So we have about 75 million people who are eligible to be vaccinated who have not yet gotten vaccinated. That's the key to ending this. I mean, that would be the key.
So that's interesting, because if that's the key, why hasn't it worked in the United Kingdom? That's a really good question, where they have 81% of the vaccinated population, eligible population vaccinated, but now they have more cases than they know what to do with. That's a really interesting question. Meanwhile, on our southern border, if you're coming from anywhere else and you're not an American citizen, no vaccinations from you. We have new drone footage out from Fox News. And what's interesting is that there are somewhat 8,000 illegal immigrants, aliens. Did he say alien? Under that bridge in Del Rio, and the majority of them, according to Information Liberation, are Haitian. Now, for those of you who don't know geography, Haiti is a small country in the Caribbean. You can either swim or walk to Mexico from Haiti. You have to either take a boat or a plane. You can't swim or walk. So they're getting there, and so is the rest of the world. The whole world knows that we have no border. We have no border. So as this vaccination mandate continues, the real question is, why are there only two choices? Senator Johnson has been the leader in asking that question. Why are there only two choices? Vaccinated or unvaccinated? Why is there no discussion about the third path, those who have been vaccinated? And you've seen those tweets on Twitter that the reason why natural immunity is not an option is because it's effectively free, right? Nobody needs to sell you a vaccine. If you got the virus, survived, you don't need a vaccine. And of course, that doesn't make anybody any money because they can't sell you a vaccine. So Senator Johnson's continuing to look into that really interesting concept. Right? Why is this only a binary thing? I thought there were more than two options. That's what I'm always told. We already had this article X out of that. So the stigmatization of people who are saying something different continues. This article here from the Federalist, if you dare to say anything but what's required of you, you're going to be shunned at work. So this professor, and God, I can't pronounce his name, Dr. J, I'm just going to call him Dr. J. It starts with the last name with Bhat. Forgive me, doctor, I can't pronounce the name. But he has been basically summarizing some data on masks accurately through his social media feeds, and his fellow professors at Stanford are not happy. Stanford's epidemiology department circulated a petition among faculty to clarify. They're asking the university president to clarify for the faculty the limits of public pronouncements when proclaiming on public health policy. In other words, you don't have free speech. These are lefties who, we used to call them liberals, but they don't earn that name anymore. These are lefties who want to preclude, who limit your free speech because you're not towing the line. The petitioners are upset that several faculty members have publicly advocated for policies that are contrary to those that the university has adopted. You promoted something that the university didn't adopt? You're not towing the line. So they're going to try to make an example of him. And this continues. I just saw it on Twitter. I saw this family in New York getting thrown out of this restaurant because they had a religious exemption from the mask mandate, but they got thrown out anyways. You've probably seen that video. It's got 700,000 views. It's just from today. Religious exemption? Like that family in New York City? No, not if you're a statey in Washington State. Washington State Patrol, State Police, or statey, as we say here in Massachusetts. If you're a statey in Massachusetts, Jason Rantz, I'm sure you've seen him on Fox News and elsewhere, radio host on the West Coast, Upper West Coast, North, what do they call that area? It's the only part of the country I really haven't been to. Pacific Northwest. 284 of the reviewed religious objections from stateys in Washington State have been rejected. Every single one. There's been over 300 applications. They've reviewed 284 and they've denied all 284. So you're either going to be made an example out of by your colleagues like at Stanford University, or completely denied your rights, even your religious rights, if you're a state trooper in Washington State. So that leads us with two more tabs, I think, that we're going to cover for today. We'll leave Don Lemon to be the last one. This is a really interesting story. As you might know, I'm in the real estate business. A large Florida landlord announces he will begin requiring all new and existing tenants to provide proof of COVID vaccination, saying you want to get vaccinated, you have to move. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you have to move. And if you don't, we will evict you. And so this is tweeted by, in celebration, I should mention, the Occupy Democrats. I can't believe I'm actually mentioning them on the show. Occupy Democrats, they're heralding this policy by the landlord. You might remember that these were the folks that just, amongst many others, were railing against the eviction ban just a short time ago until it was finally shot down by the United States Supreme Court. So it's starting. Jack, how do they enforce this against new? Well, I guess in any type of new application, you have to submit your vaccination card. And for any lease renewal, you'd have to submit your vaccination card. So for those of you who don't rent apartments, usually every year, if you're going to stay, you give the landlord notice, I'm staying. You usually give them a couple months. No, yeah, I'm going to stay. They send you a new set of paperwork. You sign off and send it back in. Maybe there's a little rent increase included. Now there'll be also the requirement to provide your vaccination card at this large landlord in Florida. Yeah, cue the lawsuits on that one, right? That brings us to Don Lamont, right? Don Lamont and what he had to say. And what's really going on here in the country is it's sad as we see the degradation of the vaccine lie. I mean, they even changed the definition officially. And the division in our country into two groups, vaccinated and unvaccinated. Here he is. Well, this leaves no introduction. We'll just play this for you.
People, when it comes to this and the vaccine, saying, oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes.
Yes, you're stupid according to Don Lamont.
They are. The people who aided and abetted Trump are stupid because they believed his big lie. The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind. Because they are keeping the majority of Americans behind.
It's time to start shaming you, or if you're unvaccinated, it's time to start shaming the unvaccinated and leaving the unvaccinated behind. It's hard to say what type of country we're moving towards. I've heard this theory out there, and you've probably seen it as well, that we're headed to some type of cold civil war. It seems like that. I mean, we've been through several highly contested elections, much like the middle 1800s. We've been through several difficult compromises, much like the middle 1800s. And now we're in this place where we have a president which is most certainly divisive, as well as not fully mentally competent. But aside from that, it's worrisome for the future of the country. Where do we go from here? What happens if this vaccine trend line goes like it did in the United Kingdom or in Israel, where the therapeutic aspect of the vaccine breaks down? I don't know. We'll talk about it on our next show. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, from behind enemy lines in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Have a great day. Bye-bye.